Eagles. How is everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, because those are the only options we have. My son is an Army officer, and he's stationed in Italy, and just before I left, he sent me a mug, and it says, "Your pronoun is my mom." Like, how great is that, right? So I'm very careful about my time. I don't like to go over. I think it's terrible. But I wondered if anyone, show of hands, wanted like maybe 90 seconds on a Phyllis story. That's what I figured. So years ago, I worked for American Conservative Union, and I used to run the green room. And Phyllis, of course, was on our board, and she was always there. And this was many, many years ago. And she came in, and she looked all frazzled. And I said, "What's the matter, Phyllis?" And she said, "I need your help in the ladies' room." I said, "Okay." When Phyllis said she needed your help, you got up and you ran behind Phyllis. So we get in the ladies' room. I said, "What?" And I'm thinking, what the heck? She says, "I've lost 2 of my hairpins, and they've gone under the sink, and I can't get them." So I crawled under the sink, cheerfully getting Phyllis's hairpins, because as we know, the hair was always perfect. And so I love that story, but the follow-up to that was that about 4 days later, in my mailbox, I lived in Virginia at the time, I get a note from Phyllis. "Thank you so much for your Herculean effort to get my hairpins." So that was so her.
The power of the thank you note.
Oh boy, it was so sweet. I was like a baby conservative at that point, and I was just I still have it somewhere in a box. Also, are any of you familiar with the Netflix TV show Mrs. Maisel? Okay.
The attack on Phyllis.
Yes. So we watched it for 2 seasons, and then it got woke, and then they started picking very directly on Phyllis. And I looked at my husband and I said, "Hard stop, we're done." But I think about that, and I think about the fact that you are all in the room, and the left's head is still exploding 40-something years after ERA, 8-something years after we lost Phyllis to Jesus. Their heads are still exploding. And so the segue from Mrs. Maisel picking on Phyllis is that she had issues, she had agendas, she had goals, she had plans. All of you are the legacy and carrying it out. The reason I want to talk about election integrity to you today is because it is the hill we have to die on. Because without secure elections, we don't go anywhere in this world, that is for sure. So everything that matters to all of us is really sort of contingent on that. All right, so I talk really fast. Ann will let me know when I'm done. So I apologize for the fast talking. Do have your pencil out, because I want you to write down my email at the very end for a very specific reason. So this is me. I've been around the movement forever. I work for Conservative Partnership and Election Integrity Network, which many of you may know Cleta Mitchell, who is my boss. I get to work with her every day, which is really awesome. There we go. This is our website. Many of you may be familiar with Stalin's comment, "It doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the votes." So we, in a credit to Stalin, we decided to name our website after him. So we're who'scounting.us. This is something Cleta wrote. It's a Citizen's Guide to Election Integrity. You can find it there. You can download it there. I really hope that you do. I'm depending that you will. All right, so this is just what we're talking about today, reclaiming elections through citizen engagement. I had a college professor that said you should outsmart an inanimate object at least once every day, and I seem to be having a problem with that. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to do Plan B. All right. Oh, it went. All right. Maybe I need to pray. Can we all just say a quick prayer for my PowerPoint? So there's a difference between us and the left. And when I say that, I don't mean Republicans, Democrats, I mean us and the left. What do they have that we don't? They don't mind cheating. They have no problem with it. That's the end game for them. They could care less about morality. We have rule of law. They have money. They have bajillionaires. They have way too many bajillionaires for us to ever fight. We have people. And not only do we have people, they have to pay their people. We don't have to pay our people. They show up at election offices as poll workers and as volunteers. They have a false narrative, and we have the truth. So let's go to the facts, what the false narrative is. I'm not going to walk through all of these. It's a bunch of, whoops. Oh, jeepers. Now it's going too fast. Sorry, people. Black turnout is up. Hispanic turnout is up. There is no suppression of minority votes. There are more blacks and Hispanics in congressional offices, as well as state offices and governorships and mayors that we could possibly count. It's wonderful. It's great. The idea that anything that we do that protects the vote suppresses any kind of minority is just baloney. And then when you look at the polling, which we hopefully are going to look at here in a second, again, not going to go into it in great detail, but the American people don't agree with the left. The American people, and I'm talking about Republicans, Democrats, white people, black people, Hispanics, Asians, by and large support voter ID. They support cleaning up the rota rolls. Everything that we care about, they support. So the idea that they don't is just truly, again, just kind of a lie. So what are our battle fronts? Raise your hand if you know what Executive Order, Mr. Biden, 14019 is. Okay, every one of you need to learn what that is. It is an executive order Joe Biden signed in March of 2021, and what it says is every single federal agency will henceforth become a voter registration agency. So if you are a struggling mom and you call HUD and you say, I need some help with housing or whatever it is, they say, oh, my boss is wondering if you've registered to vote. Unconstitutional, immoral, I could go on forever, but please look it up. It's really important. We're fighting it at the state level, and it really matters. So state laws, some states have great laws, some have terrible. I have my friend Ken Cuccinelli in the back who can attest that Virginia has some of the worst laws on election integrity in any of the states. We need to tighten up what we have and fix what we haven't. Local officials, election officials I'm speaking of here, who do not adhere to the rule of law, either because they choose not to or they're completely incompetent. You can have either. I always assume the incompetence before the malfeasance. But this is a very important issue, and I hope all of you, by the time I'm done, will be dying to sign up as poll workers. The private sector, there's all your bajillionaires. There's Zuckbucks, there's Soros, there's Mark Elias of Arabella, there's Pierre Omidyar, all these billionaires who give a lot of money to corrupt and make our elections less secure. Come on, you can do it. All right, so this is what we want. We want voter ID with address. So I live in Florida. We have a problem in Florida that we have voters coming with passports. It says you have to have federal ID. We don't know where they live, but we're stuck with their passports now. So this is a very important issue. Voter roll maintenance goes without saying. Our voter rolls, whatever state you're in, and you know your voter rolls are a mess, don't feel bad, everybody's are. Some are worse than others. We have dead people, people who've moved, college students who have voted in 3 places. It's just really problematic. Voting ends on voting day. This does not include putting pizza boxes up in your windows in Detroit and counting for the next 3 days as the ballots are coming in the back door. Poll observation, again, I call them poll workers. I think the different states call them different things. I think you know what I mean. People on the ground with eyeballs watching what's going on. And verification of absentee ballots. Whatever state you're in, if you're interested in this issue, find out what your laws are. In Florida, we're supposed to verify signatures. Imagine how many COVID absentee ballots we have and everyone's going to verify a signature. That didn't happen. And some states like Virginia, it's the last 4 of your social, and a lot of the election officials there can't be bothered. That's too much work, so they don't do it. The other team has voter wish lists as well. No voter ID. This is what they hate, because we're all racist when we call for voter ID. Blocking voter roll maintenance, because we're suppressing votes, apparently, of dead people if we do that. Universal, unrequested, vote by mail ballots. This is not, I'm going to be out of town and I want an absentee ballot because I want to vote. This is, it magically appears on your doorstep, whether you live in that doorstep or not, whether you live in a dirt lot or a post office box, you're going to get a mail ballot that you did not ask for. Drop boxes on every corner. They love drop boxes. Have you seen 2,000 Mules? Okay, so we know why, and they don't like them under streetlights either. Federal agencies, this is the Biden 14019 I was talking about, using the Democrat registration centers, basically. Rigged choice voting. If anybody in this room thinks ranked choice voting is a good idea, please come see me. It's not. It's a nightmare. We have some Republicans who are behind it, which I just don't get at all. Really bad. Assistance. For voters who need assistance filling out their ballots, they don't need assistance making their decisions, and this is a big problem. One of the things I work on particular is vulnerable voters. I'll talk about that again in a little bit more in a second. We're talking about votes stolen from dementia patients. It's disgusting. They want more billionaires and more Biden bucks, and Biden bucks being the executive order, because your taxpayer dollars are now paying to register Democrats through his executive order. I really apologize for this clicker. There we go. So election integrity, where are we now? So in 2020, did you wake up the next morning after that election and say, what the heck was that? What just happened? We all kind of looked at each other. I said to somebody the other day, you know, if somebody had asked me, did Trump really win after that election, I'd say, I would have said, well, I don't know. I don't really know. Maybe, yeah, probably. Now, things these eyes have seen, data I have looked at, 100%, 100%. So anyway, so where do we start? We start in this room. We start with folks like you, engagement and education. Don't be scared. Don't be, oh, I sound like my kids. Don't be scared of election integrity. Engage in it. So let's talk about movements. So pro-life, did we have a win as a movement? Yes, we did. The Second Amendment is a movement. What does this mean? It means there's a bunch of people working on it at any given moment, and that people go to the polls to vote for a candidate for that one thing. I'm going to vote for that lady because she's pro-life. I'm going to vote for that man because he wants to lower my taxes. You become a movement for election integrity when people are actually moved to the polls because they're voting for that guy because he supports election integrity. For everyone, I might add, it is a nonpartisan issue. So at Election Integrity Network, our job is to create a national election integrity infrastructure. And the way we're doing that is by building coalitions. So we have a whole bunch. I want to say, I list them at the end and I can't remember states' names. So we have about 14 or 15 active, robust, very busy state election coalition calls. They have made remarkable progress in many, many states in a very, very short period of time, including escalating things to governor's offices, finding out from one county the bad guys are doing this, are they doing that in your county? They've been hugely, hugely successful. So that is what we are. What we are not, okay, it's probably going to go again, is a wind tunnel. We don't sit around and chat. We get stuff done. Very, very important. We're not a bunch of party hacks. This, to us, really is, I mean, we're mostly Republicans. We'd love the Democrats to play with us. They don't. But it is not a party issue for us. It is not a compilation of personal agendas. It is not a place to air grievances. We don't allow that on any of our calls. If we get a legislator or an official on and someone wants to kvetch at them, we shut them off quick because that's not what this is about. And we're not a platform that goes backwards. We're not interested in relitigating 2020 or recertifying 2020. There's a lot we'd like to do, but the bottom line is we take the lessons we learned and the things we saw in 2020 and we go forward with those. Structure, we have local task forces. Any of you guys, raise your hand if you have friends. Do any of you have friends? Do you have like 5 friends and do you have a kitchen table? Okay, that's how you start a local task force. It is literally that simple, and we have the resources for you. That's my job, is to be your resource. Then we have the statewide coalition calls, and again, I'll list the states in a minute, which is why I want your pencils out. We also have national calls. So one of my colleagues is very involved in what the post office's role in election integrity. He calls it the America's biggest precinct, which it really is. And he has a national call of people who work on that. Starting on Monday evening, I am doing a national vulnerable voters call to provide resources and action steps for folks who want to engage in assisted livings, nursing homes, group homes, whatever. This is just sort of the structure. We have a cabinet. We have each coalition, each state coalition has a cabinet, about 5 or 6 people who help us out, give us guidance, tell us, talk things over before we go on the weekly call. We have experts available. We make sure we have experts available, including lawyers, and we communicate all the time with each other. We do that through, we use Slack as a communication platform, but there's all kinds of different ways you can do it. I feel like Zuckerberg is doing this to me. All right. So these are the 3 things that we want to do more than anything else on our coalition. Detect, you find problems. Document, you write them down. My uncle said that the guy next door got 2 ballots is not documenting anything. So we really want to teach people how to document and how to escalate things up the chain and deter. I mean, the whole goal of this is to take what we've learned and what we are learning and make sure that it never happens again. Okay, I'm not going to go over this because it takes too long, but in our guide, which I know you're all going to go home and download from who'scounting.us, it talks about all the issues that we deal with in election integrity. This is just a list of what we call the 8 lanes. And if you are engaged in a task force, if you start a task force, these are the things that we recommend to you that you start working on. All right, so this is just the Florida one. I started it. We have a wonderful young lady from Citizens Renewing America who is now the director and runs it. I'm the senior advisor now because I'm doing sort of more national stuff. But we have what we call our brown bag coalition call. We have it every Thursday at noon. It is statewide. We started out with about 30 people. We have 80 people on there. And when I say 80 people, I mean 80 people who are really working, talking to each other, sharing information, and doing all kinds of great work. We even had, short story, we had a horrible, bad press is great. I don't know if you guys know this, but bad press is wonderful. And we had a hit piece on us in the Orlando Sentinel. And because of that, a Democrat from one of our counties who was running for office came to us and said, there was fraud in my county, the Democrats won't do anything about it, will you help us? And we said, oh, absolutely, we will all day long. So we have now escalated that to the executive branch of Florida and working very hard with her. All right, there we go. So these are just a couple of things that came up in Florida, just so that you know this really works. We had a precinct consolidation problem, consolidate the precincts in Republican areas, and then everybody wants an absentee ballot because it takes too long to vote. They're doing that. We identified problems with the hotlines that the Republican Party had supplied to us during the primary. We fixed that. We sent a coalition letter to Governor DeSantis, about 120 signatures, including organizations on it, telling him not allow Joe Biden to have his executive order acted upon in Florida so that the federal agencies acting in Florida will not be voter registration places. It was a great letter. I wrote it. I had fun. It was good. And then here's our mystery case brought to us by a Democrat. Oops. Yeah, sure. It skips over the one I really want to be on. The Democrat candidate and this is not just us. This happened in Georgia. Jenny Beth Martin of Tea Party Patriots is working with a Democrat in Georgia. So it's really cool because we always say we're bipartisan. And when the other team shows up and says, help us with any kind of election integrity or fraud issue, we're thrilled. All right. Okay. So these are the state task forces we have going as we speak that have weekly phone calls. If you live in Florida, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and North Carolina, or coming soon, as in like next week, not months from now, Tennessee, Texas, New Mexico, Minnesota, Illinois, Ohio, Colorado, and South Carolina. We have a newbie call that we do for folks who haven't worked on this before. We don't expect you to be an expert. We actually don't expect you to know what you're doing. That's our job, is to help you to know what you're doing. I think the next slide has my email on it. I would love to have an email, like 250 to deal with on Monday, from all of you lovely people wanting to be part of this coalition effort that we have. Lastly, on our website, we have what we call master classes. We've done 19 master classes on Coalition 101. What is a coalition? You keep telling us to form one. What is that? So we do Coalition 101 all the way through the 8 lanes of issues, all the way through how to be a poll worker, how to be a poll watcher, blah, 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 all the stuff that matters for election integrity. They're 3-4 minutes long. You can watch them 3,000 times and take notes. You can use them in a meeting. A lot of you have organizations like Eagle Forum. You can use them in your meetings. They're for you. We did them for you. So there is my email. I would truly love to hear from you. We can help you join a coalition. We've established you all have friends and kitchen tables, so we can help you start a coalition. We can talk about the master classes. The other thing we're going to start up probably in the next week is what we call Summit in a Box. One of the things that we did earlier in the year, we did 9 summits in 9 battleground states. We had about 400 or 500 people, and it was 2 solid days of election integrity training. It was exhausting and worthwhile all at the same time. Now we've encapsulated that using the master classes, and then we will host them, these summits in a box. So it's basically will be a 2-hour class. You can sit on a Saturday afternoon and learn everything you need to know about election integrity. My boss, Cleta Mitchell, has an amazing podcast that isn't just blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of education about various aspects of election integrity. Again, there's our website. If you have any questions, again, that's my job, is to answer your questions and to help you. And that's it.
Thank you.